Hi again then guys, and welcome to another circuit setup for one of the new cars, of course, from the 1.28 patch. And this one, being the one that we've left until last, that could sometimes mean it's a great one, other times perhaps not so much. And I'll be completely honest and say that as interesting as the car is, it kind of stumped me to some degree as to what to actually use this car for and what to tune it for. Because it's not that it's bad, it's just it's a little off in whatever category you build it for. It's not quite quick enough for Blue Moon Bay. It's cool that it can be dropped to N100, but it's very big and very heavy for that level. So ultimately, I decided to do that because N100, at least from what I've seen and experienced from driving it so far, is basically the best option. Because if you take it to N200, N300, certainly any higher than that, you're going to struggle. In fact, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose because you're going up against stuff like NSXs and Porsche GT3s. It does not stand a chance against stuff like that, especially for top-end speed, which is kind of ironic given how good it was for top-end speed in the past game, or in the last game, GT6. Now, for this particular build, it's still slower than a lot of the other cars in N100, but I'm basically saying this is the best you're going to get out of a car like this. You could use it for rallying if you want to, perhaps, but the majority of people probably won't. So N100 is essentially just the kind of tune that I'm going to give you to basically improve the handling, improve the manners through corners, and then if you want to increase the power, of course you can. But as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much best case scenario. Now, as far as the power, I've reduced it to 59%, which is the top echelon of N100. We've dropped the weight as much as you can. Traction control you definitely don't need turned on. We've got it on sport soft tyres. Of course, racing tyres will be even better, and you do kind of need all the help you can get with this car. As far as the suspension, we've dropped the ride height all the way, which is still pretty high for what it is. For the frequency on the springs, we've got 1.9, then 7 on anti-roll. I've opted for 65 on the compression aspect of the dampers, with 90 on the rebound, 1 degree of camber, which is perhaps surprising for such a low-powered car, but it helps it through corners quite a bit on this one. And as far as the tow, we've gone neutral. Downforce you can't adjust, and for the diff, I've opted for the lowest setting on all 3. And of course, by all means, you can try other things as well. That's the whole point of the tunes, but that's the sweet spot for my personal driving style. Now, as far as the gearbox, this of course is what you'll have to change based on the power that you give it. And unfortunately, the problem for this car is still the top end speed. No matter how much or how little power you give it, it's very sluggish as soon as you get up above 100, which is a shame, because you could get a lot more use out of it, especially in N100, if that weren't the case. Now, I've gone for an auto setting of 124, then for the individual gears, I've gone all the way to the right for first gear, which really helps the acceleration off the line. It's not exactly face melting, but you know what I mean. As far as second, we've gone all the way up to 3250. For third, 2350. Fourth is on the lowest possible setting, and fifth, 1350. Now, you can technically get a little bit more top speed if you lower that, but the acceleration becomes very sluggish. So with this particular tune, you can get about maybe 110, 115, possibly 120 miles per hour out of it, which, as I said, you're not going to beat a Honda S660 anytime soon. In fact, you're not even going to beat a Honda Beat. So it's slow, in other words. And as far as the final drive, I've gone for 4.27. Now, this particular build is, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much the best thing you're going to get out of the car as far as usefulness, but just to show what it can do, let's take it out to the track. Now, when I say that this car is slow, it really is. I mean, to spoil the lap time early, it's a 2:14 lap, so it's not necessarily the slowest thing around, but it's not far off. I mean, that's a good, 5 seconds slower than something like the Honda Beat, tuned to the peak of M100 as well. So it's unfortunate that the car doesn't have more use, and I'm sure there are some people out there who have found a sweet spot for it. You could use it in N200 if you wanted to push it a little bit further, but any higher than that, you are going to lose. Essentially, unless you're up against the exact same car, or people who just can't drive, the car doesn't stand a chance. In N100, on the other hand, you can at least have some fun with it. The cornering is really good in N100 because you can keep that high average speed, you haven't got much power or torque to deal with, and of course the payoff of that is that it's just slow in general. So ultimately, this is probably the, you could say, most useless tune that I've done for all of the new cars, but unfortunately, There's not much that I can do about that because the car itself isn't the most useful thing around. However, this tune is more so for people who love the car and just want to use it for something, and then of course it's more of a handling build than anything else, so you can increase the power if you want to, and then it's down to you. With the right driver you could certainly win some events with it, but for most occasions it's certainly not worth banging out 1,000,000 credits for something like this unless you just like the car anyway. So if you want to check out my significantly quicker tunes than this one, you can click here on screen to do that, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.